Hello guys, this is your boy Vipers here tonight, and we're going to do another episode of the Game Takes, episode 38. Tonight's broadcast will be talking about why did I put WrestleMania on there for our sixth WrestleMania? Sixth Invitational 2021 predictions. Now we did this show last year. We're going to change it up a little bit with the style, as I'll kind of explain after this. It's gonna sucks that COVID's been away. It's not gonna be in Montreal anymore. It's gonna it's not gonna be the final time in Montreal, but it's gonna be in Paris. Yeah, that sounds about right. Same time. There's gonna be 20 teams. It's gonna be the first big one of the first big esports tournaments. Well, maybe besides the League of Legends championships. Um, to be held internationally by many teams besides these kind of local lands, as you kind of see with what's happening with the North American League finals right now. So we're going to let our guest introduce himself, then we're going to get through the show.
Yep. So my name's Drew Swack. I'm a professional analyst within the scene. I formerly worked with United for this most recent Pro League in North America. I'm currently LFT coming into this new season. United left the scene. There's a whole lot of malarkey that went along with that, but we won't get onto that. I will not be participating in the essay with my team. I will instead be sitting home and watching it and do my own independent analysis. And we'll be hoping to look for a team in the upcoming Rostermania, which there will be after SA. The transfer window opens. So that's when we'll have the fallout from SA. We'll be able to actually reflect on what we're talking about today and then go into a brand new season.
First, we're going to go over the time question. Doesn't totally relate to what's happening with the SI predictions, but I kind of want. This is kind of the first guest that I had has pro experience, or at least has seen experience in the pro scene. Kind of give me a rundown of how you got into the whole United story. Start from how did you? I noticed did you start on Rent Free, right?
Yes.
Because I think I looked at. So how did you get onto the Rent Free, and then we'll go to the United story.
So I've got about 3+ years experience, coming up 4 years now, of doing data analytics. And this was actually started in Call of Duty. But Siege is like 5 years old now, so it didn't take long for me to merge into Siege. And originally it was just because the game itself doesn't have a lot of tools to give you statistics. The engine is not built incredibly well. And it means that there is a gap for people like myself who have the experience of collecting and processing data to come in and do a lot of work. And it didn't take long for me to combine that with actual game knowledge, put some context behind stuff. And so I ended up working for some independent Discord leagues and stuff, and just kind of running the statistics, doing some analysis, even appearing on some casts, doing some kind of like desk analysis stuff. And then with just before the COVID period hit, I was actually due to get a job with VSL to work with them at events, kind of be almost like a data analyst, kind of working there to kind of help the talent to kind of turn their statistics into something meaningful for the audience, rather than just shouting KDs at the crowd and stuff like that. But due to COVID, I wasn't able to do that. So for this last year, I've been focusing 100% on being an analyst for a team, and that led to me applying and getting on the challenge team rent free. And within half a season, I earned myself a spot with United in the Pro League. This was due to themselves kind of making some changes with their own support staff. So I was in the right time, right place. However, I do feel like I earned it, and I guess my work shows it. I ended up sticking with United for half a season for the last split. We actually qualified for the next season, so it wasn't the most successful season in terms of our targets, but we did what we needed to do to get into the next season. And then there's a load of stuff to do with organizations and UB and stuff that has allowed us to not compete for next season. But so we've all kind of gone our separate ways now.
Who contacted you for the United opportunity? Because it just seems like a going from the challengers as an analyst, which isn't really common. Well, now it's going to become more, it's common now, but kind of analyst hasn't been really common in the challenger scene to kind of where United pick you up. Who was the first person to contact you?
So it was actually quite funny actually. So there's a player called Rexon, if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
He and I worked together on Rent-Free for the first split, and he ended up getting picked up by EU as a player. EU were looking to add a little experience, an experienced fragger to their team, and Richie fitted the bill. I mean, in my opinion, he shouldn't have even been in Challenger League to start off with. He's that caliber of player. I could say a lot. I could say a lot of the same about the rest of that team. However, when he got picked up, he actually put in a good word for me straight off the bat. He was he found my work useful, at least as a player, and he figured that I would have a place at EU. So when it actually came further down the line that they needed to make changes, um, I was, I guess, one of their primary targets, just due to that vouch, if you like. So I ended up reuniting with Richie to work again with him for the remainder of the season.
Last thing before we get into the main topic, kind of the predictions here. What? How did you know that United was releasing your squad, and with all the turmoil that happened because it came out of nowhere? Talking about the R6 share skins coming out. That's why you saw LG. Kind of getting opportunity. It sucked that LG and LG, Luminasi and EG left, but did you how, was that like a process where the United contacted the whole Rainbow Six team and said, okay, I don't think this is going to work out, we got the five, because I think I remember your owner, or one of your brew mentioning, said 5 months without playing besides a qualifying match, that's not really worth it.
Yeah,
um
that was a social media manager group who
yeah.
commented on that. So there's a few parts of this I'm going to choose to leave out, but the gist of it was, exactly what Brute said. It wasn't financially viable for EU to continue in the scene with there being such a large gap in the schedule, and that ultimately wasn't our fault. It ultimately wasn't even EU's fault. It was just, I think for them, they were just kind of realizing that the changes to the structure, due to, I mean, obviously COVID kind of changed a lot of this, but also the way that UB decided to go with this season in response, just did not fit United at all. So they chose that moment to basically say, right, we do not want to be a part of this anymore. They obviously came to us as players and said, this decision has been made. We're not we're not wanting to make this decision, but it's a decision we have to make, and we are actively looking to transfer you to a different organization, and to transfer the license to perform into the league, and yeah, and just basically go from there. So the plan was basically for them to transfer our contracts, transfer the NAL license, which is sanctioned by Ubisoft to compete. It involves moving your team to a team house and obviously preparing for a LAN league, which of course did not happen this year. And as players, that would be all that would concern us. We'd basically be in new jerseys, new contracts with a new organization, and we would have our 2021 spot, which we qualified for. There was clearly some miscommunications between themselves and Ubisoft. Midway through United's own negotiations, Ubisoft decided to take back the license, assuming that United were just up and leaving. So there was, yeah, again, there's a few things I'll leave out, but the gist of it was United weren't able to transfer the license got rescinded. It meant ourselves as players got disqualified, since we had no organization to represent us. We got put to 8th place, meaning that we are in the relegation match now against, ironically enough, Rent-Free, the Challenger League team, which I
Which will
left recently.
never happen.
Yes, the relegation match never happened. Ubisoft put out a statement, which is available on Twitter, saying that all of this is happening. also saying that the relegation match is not necessary since we're disqualified. And so the Challenger League team got also qualified. So we got relegated for not having an organization. And instead, a Challenger League team, Rent Free, who also didn't have an organization, by the way, got promoted into Pro League and given that license.
Now,
This obviously caused a lot of uproar.
backlash. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the backlash was awful. But I mean, the main gist of it was Ubisoft had miscommunications with E United. E United communicated with us at least to the best to the best of their knowledge what was happening, and we kind of became collateral as players, just as a result of the current system that exists within the league, with organizations owning licenses.
Now, last thing before he has, do you know there's 2 spots? Wait, there's 6 spots confirmed with the what was happening with Sonics. Do you know this? You don't have to leak anything. Are the final 2 spots filled?
I cannot say anything on that.
Okay, just curious. Probably guessing they probably are, but we're not gonna get further into that. Okay, so we're gonna go into 6 Invitational 21 topics, predictions. Now we're gonna change up from last year since it's 20 teams, and I don't really know about half the. Well, I know most of the teams, like the rosters and all that. I kind of want to make it a little bit more simpler because I don't. It's a little bit different with how the stage is set up. It's just 2 groups of 10. I'm guessing the single elimination, single map matches.
I could run you through the format if you like.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. Because I know it's 10 teams in Group A and B. I'm guessing it's if you're gonna have, they're not gonna do 9 best of threes. That's gonna be too much.
No, there's going to be 9 best of ones per team in that group, so that's 90 best of ones for the entire group stage. It sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. However, this single round robin best of 1 format with draws, by the way, is probably honestly, it's really hard to tell without being played out. But I really like this format, and the reason I like this format is because every team gets to play each other. You have the possibility for one single team in the 6 Invitational to play at least 75% of the entire teams there, which is great. What will happen after everyone's played the best of ones within a group is the 10th team in each group will be eliminated. Done. That's their 6 Invitational. They've played 9 maps and they're gone. The rest of the teams.
2. I thought it was bottom 2 for each group, so it'd be 16 left.
16 left. As far as I was aware, it was the 10th team. Even if it is the 9th team, then you got that's 4 teams. That's them completely out. And then I guess that would make sense for the maths because they then go into a bracket, a double elimination bracket. The top 4 from both groups will go into the winners bracket, and the bottom 4 will go into the losers bracket. And then a double elimination bracket will be played from there. From the bracket onward, it will be best of 3, leading up to the grand final, which would be, I assume, best of 5 with a 1 map advantage, like it was last year. Which
I do like the 1 map advantages sometimes.
But yeah, we won't get to the semantics of it.
Some people argue at that. That's kind of a good thing to do because that's what you get for winning all your matches and like the playoffs. You should get that advantage, but some people just don't like that.
Well, coming from
I don't get why, but
coming from Call of Duty, it's a lot more feasible for them just to reset the bracket. So they'll play 1 best of 3, and then if the winners lose the best of 3, then they'll just play another best of 3. So they end up basically playing 2 best of 3s if needed, meaning that every single team plays 2 best of 3s. Sorry, every single team loses 2 best of 3s before going out. In this format, they will be the only. So if the winners lose that match, then sure, it was a best of 5, but they still only played 1 match and lost it. Whereas every other single team in the bracket has at least lost 2 matches before leaving the competition. So you can think of it in that way. There are definitely pros and cons to it. I think right now, in terms of the format, this is the best that we can ask for. It's not feasible to play 2 best of 3s back to back, let alone 2 best of 5s. So unless you want to do a best of 7 with a 1 map advantage,
no, that's too much.
I don't really think it can go that much further.
Yeah, there's only 7 maps in the wait. That sounds about right. 7 maps in the competitive pool, so that doesn't make sense at that point. So first thing I got is kind of talking about the best team in each region. Now, this is not talking about the groups yet. The
Mhm.
best. Who do you think is? We're gonna go down the line. Best NA
Yeah.
team, best EU, best LATAM, and best APAC. While you kind of
So
open up the teams list, might as well get that
yeah,
open.
I need to remind myself of all the groups as well. Here we go. Um, and as a disclaimer, of course, well, not so much a disclaimer, but more just obviously I've been extremely busy within the NAL region myself, and I'm not actively with the team. So there are some teams which I'm a little bit, they're a bit of an unknown to me as well, just because obviously they're not from my region that I work within. I've not done an incredible amount of research. I've not watched a lot of their matches. So there will be a few things that I'm saying that I kind of may
That's
not
totally
be
fine.
from my own research, and maybe just things I've heard or just kind of general things about the team. Um, but yeah, so you want to do from who I think are the best groups from each region, or each group? Did you say?
Actually, let's. I'm gonna do this a little bit backwards now. Um, we're gonna change. I'm gonna change the order because I put that best team in each region first, but we're kind of gonna do that one last. Kind of
Okay,
later on. We're gonna start with the kind of the open qualifier teams. So they were MKer, MK. I don't know how you pronounce it. MKers,
makers. It's just
makers. Yeah,
yeah, without the
Altiora,
without the A.
Altiora, the NAL team, the NA team, Furia, well-known organization in Brazil, and Cyclops. Which team do you
So,
think has the best chance of placing high? If you kind of know from all those teams.
so this is actually kind of interesting because I think in every single qualifier, a different team was expected to make it out of the qualifiers. Makers weren't expected to make it. In fact, Makers went on a streak of beating Pro League caliber teams or Pro League teams themselves to get through. I believe they took out Chaos, they took out Navi, they took out
Tempera.
Rogue and Tempera as well, and then Secret. Uh, so they basically demolished um, every single EUL team that didn't make it through the point system, which is nuts. So I mean, if you want to talk just based on results, then makers have they've proved that within this meta, they can stand toe to toe with pro league caliber teams. And I'm not going to say that all those pro league teams played their best. They certainly made some mistakes, and not one of those teams has looked good or is even still together. Um, in some cases, so I would have to say that Makers has the best chance. However, LCR also made some noise within their NA region. So, in fact, and for that reason, I think that Makers versus LTR will actually be a really interesting match in Group B. Um, you'll have like basically the two qualified teams going against each other. Um, one from Canada and one from Italy. So that would be really interesting. It'd be interesting to see that clash of styles. Um, outside of that, I don't think Furia have an incredible chance of making it far. I think when you look at the group, I think when you look at the quality in the group, I think they have a very good chance to be in that bottom two, which you're correct, it is ninth and tenth that gets eliminated. So um, I don't think that based on their group and just kind of based on how I think they are as a team, they're going to make it far. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that. And it was
Cyclops.
Cyclops as well. So Cyclops, the team I'm not incredibly familiar with. I do know that they have recently added to their support staff. They've added Hybrid, who, from what I understand, is a very capable analyst. He will make sure that they are prepared. Um, the thing is with Japanese team is that they are extremely mechanically skilled. Like they can hang in the gunfights department. They just don't have that years of experience at a high level with other top level teams to develop all of the strategies and the coordination and everything that kind of goes along with that. Um, do I think they can make some noise in a best of one format? Absolutely. I feel like if you're going to play a best of one, you only have a format pool. It's going to be easier for you as a lesser team in a strategy department to put something together and to make a run for the groups. Ultimately, though, I don't see them going far too well. If they get off groups, I don't believe they'll be in the winners bracket. And I think that in the best of three formats, the the weakness of their tactical depth will be shown against a team that is a bit more up to the task in the best of three.
I gotta go with. I think for that, I gotta go with CAG. I know the Japanese team. You don't. No one knows about the APAC North regions, but they play that APAC side is pretty tough. Not too. I don't know how tough they are, but they have pretty high quality teams coming there. You got Cloud9, Giants. They were competing for that top three spot. Like they were competing with what you got with Cloud9 and Giants, and they feel like they get the most potential out of those teams. Like, well, I don't know how far they're going to make it. Again, you look at the group; you got BDS, G2, Liquid, Empire. You still got Cloud9, the group, DZ. It's not going to be easy run.
Nope.
But I feel like they could have a chance to make it out if you kind of can squeak some of those. Best of one format. You can possibly do some work. It's a pretty. They did make it. CAG did make it to the sixth invitational last year. That sounds about right. So the players have already have six invitational experience, so that's going to be a big help for them. If I was going to go, so I think they can have a chance to make it far. I'm not going to say they're going to make it that far because you
Mm.
got to look at the other teams, but they have the most potential. You got Furrier who just escaped relegation. Um, but the good Fury got a good chance. Maybe get some wins on the board because the one thing that shocked me is I thought Straw was going to make it out of the LATAMs. And I thought they got
Furia they were just one round away from
not
being
making it.
2-0'd by Estral. So um, I was fully expecting Estral to make it through. I thought they would beat Furia, and I wasn't as surprised to see what seemingly was going to be an Estral 2-0 victory. But then Furia just got it together, I guess. They won the second map, and honestly, the third map didn't seem close. It seemed like Estral, at least not in terms of the score, but just in the way that Estral were playing, they didn't seem themselves. So I think that Fury deserves a sixth invitational spot. I just don't think they're going to make a lot of noise. And I think you have to think, like, for all four of these teams that we've mentioned, what is going far for them? I think Makers and Altiora have a higher ceiling in terms of their expectations than Fury and like Cyclops. Like I feel like Fury and Cyclops could get out the groups, maybe, and I
Oh,
think that
I
would be an
know why.
achievement for them.
Because Altaria and Makers kind of had the tougher region, so they kind of played a lot of the tough competition, where a lot of the town. Well, I don't know. Well, that makes
Well,
sense. Like with
well,
Europe, especially Europe.
it's I think it's more they come from stronger regions for a start.
Yeah,
Altiora are actually a Canadian Pro League team. They are currently it's kind of up in the air whether they're going to join the North American League in this Canada American merge, which is happening. Um, and with Makers, sure they are like a tier 3 team. They've kind of come out of nowhere, but they've at least shown in the qualifier that they can play best of threes. They do have a deeper map pool than Cyclops and Fury, for example, and the play style that they bring to the table is extremely aggressive and in your face, and that can throw teams off. I think, especially within a best of one format, Makers can make some noise, and then they have the best of three experience. When I look at Fury and Cyclops, I just don't see the same experience. So for me, Makers and Altiora have, at least in my mind, I expect him to go a little bit further than the groups and just get knocked out straight away. I honestly think that they could make some noise in the lower bracket.
yeah, okay. Yes. It's gonna be interesting how you see those home call for teams do because
Mhm.
again, it's a best of one. You don't know what you're gonna expect. Next question I got for you is we're gonna go top four in Group A and B, and then from those top four, you're gonna go. Oh, wait, let's start with the worst two team. You said Furion was one of them in Group A. The
Yes.
worst two teams in Group A and B. Then we go to like the top side. So
So outside of an upset, it should be Cyclops and Furia ending nice and tense. There's two qualified teams. You could put Team One in there as well
I
from
was about to
Brazil.
say that too.
I don't think that they look very strong, and I think that Brazil in general has benefited from the invitational point system um, that has been applied across all regions. I think that Brazil has benefited massively. It's kind of testament to the fact that they have 5 teams in this invitational, which is more than any other region. Um, I I don't think Team One are going to do too much of this event, and I feel like the only reason that they would get out of groups is just because there are two other weaker teams in the group. Um, do I think they're on par with FaZe Clan even in their own region? No. I think Cloud9 trump them as well, and I don't think they match up whatsoever to DZ and the European teams. So um, I would even stick my neck out on the line and say that that Team One just doesn't make it. Like they come tenth, and it will be either Cyclops or Furia filling up that ninth spot. That's how low I kind of rate Team One right now as a team, and that's come from someone who didn't have a lot of LATAM experience as well. So if at a glance the team looks weak, then that's kind of worrying. Um, so I'm sorry to my Brazilian friends, but I do not have a lot of faith for Team One right now.
I'm gonna probably go. Yeah, I gotta go with Team One and probably Fury here. I know I said CAG is gonna be the best pick, but I don't know. One, they have struggled in the majors. You know, I think they. I don't remember what place they got out, but they were in like fourth or third both times. And I don't know if this is. I don't think it was like a land environment the first time around. I think they did land for November major. I'm probably guessing. So, and also this is going to be the first, well, for both teams. This is a lot of those players, maybe besides Navi's coming out of Furia, they haven't competed invitational, so they don't know what to expect. Unlike all the rest of the teams in the group, which all have even C9, which was I think Mantis before, um, pro invitational experience. So you got to look at the teams with at least two invitational experience, especially when you come in a group that has G2, who's won invitational in 2019, and Empire won a major in Rally. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So for Group B,
Okay, so let's have a look at Group B. Okay, so if we apply the same logic, obviously we've got Makers and Altiora, which should on the cards be ninth and tenth. This is a harder group to call. This is a really hard group to call. The reason I think it's a hard group to call is because you have some genuine like firepower across all the teams. Like this for me is a harder group to call. Even if we just kind of go from bottom to top, Wildcard and Giants, they're both extremely credible teams. The best teams, in my opinion, from both Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia. Sorry. Um,
North and South APAC.
yeah, sorry, North and South APAC. I believe they're the number one teams, coming from both of those areas. Um, Virtus Pro is, I think, on paper, apart from Makers, um, the weakest team to come from EU.
Mm.
However,
Oh
they've
yeah.
also
Oh,
been they've also been making some noise. They recently had um, their Pro League finals. Sorry, the European League finals. And sure, they didn't get the result that they wanted, but they played a good tournament. Then you've got obviously the American teams. You're expecting them to make out groups comfortably. NIP, MIBR. So like, it's really like, well, what do you pick here, right? Like, what do you pick here? So I think off the face of it, I'm gonna have to say that Altiora and Makers don't make it. But at the same time, I don't know. I just feel like there's going to be an upset in this group. I feel like there's going to be someone caught lacking. Um, and
I
it
have a team in
makes
mind.
yes, I do actually. I
It's might be
worry.
different. I think I
I
got the
worry
oxygen.
for yes, no. I was going to say the same thing. I worry for Oxygen, and the reason that I'm kind of being reserved in this is because they're literally playing a tournament right now, and they're known to be in the top four, but there is honestly it's a top three plus Oxygen. Oxygen have not made any noise when it comes to those top four tournaments. Um, their map pool doesn't look as strong, and we're in a best of one format as well. They're going to be in the best of one format against teams that are used to best of one, um, and they're going to be against teams that have just had their number all year. So, and yes, Oxygen have pulled up wins against Space Station Gaming. I will admit that, but I don't know. I don't feel like the consistency is there, and this is a group where you cannot be caught lacking. So as outrageous as it may seem, I would not be surprised if Oxygen like are in the bottom four of this group whatsoever. I would be surprised if they get knocked out, but I do worry for them. Outside of Oxygen, um, I guess obviously Makers and Altiora are easy targets. Um, Even Wildcard and Giants could be easy targets, but I do think that they are capable teams. Um, mm,
Maybe
this is tough.
Rockharts is a possibility. Well, they don't play in like a strong region. Again, the only other team you really have capabilities is Knights, and they recently just lost the South APAC Finals to the Pittsburgh Knights.
They did. They
So
did.
that's a concern right there. So you kind of have to consider them in the mix, but I feel like they have a chance to make it out because they have experience already.
That is true. I mean, you could argue that maybe Wildcard and even VP as well in their situation, they've got they've got more to lose with the fact that they're an invitational and they don't want to be showing a lot of strategies. But honestly, I think that whole thing's kind of BS. I think if you're the stronger team, you should win regardless of how much stuff you're saving. But you're right. Like Wildcard's momentum could be hurt a little bit going into this. Um, so based on that, I tell you what. Then let's say I'm going to say Wildcard and I'm going to say Altiora for the bottom two, with question marks of OXG and Makers. Um, Once again, I do have a lot of belief in Altiora and Makers, but if we're just going to do a straight up prediction, um, those would be the two I'd go for.
I'll probably go with Oxygen and Alti
Oxygen.
Oxygen Altier there. I just don't think they can have a
If we were
chance.
doing
I
this
don't.
2 days later,
Yeah.
then I would probably be more confident in saying OXG, but I don't know how they're
Well, they
performing.
lose to TC.
So
They're playing TSM right now, so they lose to them. Then okay, it's not much of a difference. So next will be top. Well, let's see. We'll do the best two teams in Group A and B, and then we'll fill out the find the who's going to make it the winner's side in each group. So that's the extra two, third and fourth. So I'm going to start with the best two teams in Group A and B.
BDS and Dark Zero. Um, Dark Zero have, I mean, Dark Zero are obviously considered in the top three in North America, and I think North America as a region are just a little bit ahead right now, having been able to play consistent best of threes. Um, and you're kind of seeing the cream rise within NA. You're starting to see the top three just kind of become a step ahead of the competition. The only worry that I have for Dark Zero is that they're in a group with they're in a group with a load of people who haven't been playing best of threes all year, so they're going to be more suited to the best of one format. I do wonder how Dark Zero do in a tournament environment, which they've always seemed to shake. And I do worry how they do in a best of one format where they could be caught napping. Um, However, I do believe that they have the ability to be a top two team in this group alongside BDS. I think BDS run away with this group, by the way. I honestly don't think they drop a single game in this group. I think I would not be surprised to go 9-0. Um, and but yeah, but once Dark Zero gets to that winners bracket, which I fully expect them to do, I think you'll really start to see their strengths. They'll get into their stride. Any land shakes that they've had in the past that may come up here will be gone. They've obviously got this. They've been playing a lot more land than other teams recently, so they should feel a little bit more comfortable. And again, we'll be going back into best of three. BC's Giga Brain is going to be activated. The map pools are going to expand, and yeah, I think we'll see their true strengths. And that's just as an aside. That's another thing that's kind of underrated about going from best of ones to best of threes is the map pool change. Because if you're in a best of one situation with 7 maps in the pool, then each team is banning 3 maps. So what does that mean? It means you can have a 4 map pool because it doesn't matter what 3 maps your opponent bans. If you have a 4 map pool, there's going to be at least 1 map that you're left with that is within your map pool. However, when you're playing best 6, because it's ban ban pick pick ban ban decider, you have to have a 6 map pool because there is only 1 guaranteed ban that you can control. So what am I implying here? Well, if you're going from a 4 map pool to a 6 map pool, if you're a team that's expected to make out of groups, say like a DZ, like a BDS, like an SSG, you can essentially have 2 maps within your 6 map pool completely hidden throughout group stages. that you maybe only pull out if absolutely necessary. Um, and so when you go into brackets and teams are doing their study on you, you're going to be able to pull up these two maps in your ban phase that other teams, I'm not going to say it won't be prepared for, but at least will not have any VOD information of you on. So I think that's another interesting dynamic to add to this. The fact that there are some teams who are more comfortable in best of one, some teams more comfortable in best of three, and there are differences in map pool changes between them.
Interesting. Might as well just finish the Group A part. Who will be the next two teams? And I think these two teams will kind of make it to winners, the winner
Um,
side. So third and fourth best team in the pool, and then we do it
so
for the B side.
Team Empire are my actually my sleeper pick for the entire event. I think they're a slept on team. I think they've been quietly putting up some really good results. They beat BDS. They're the only team to convincingly beat BDS in a final this year, and BDS have been consistent since they got fourth place in SI last year. So um, Team Empire could be a top two team. I'm going to put them in the top four alongside G2 Esports. I think G2 are starting to get into their stride a little bit. I think this meta actually suits them as players a lot more too. Um, I don't think that G2 are playing perfect siege right now. I do think that a lot of their play is them kind of getting away with the raw talent on their team. Um, However, I do think that a top four spot is more than expected of them right now.
For top two, I gotta go with BDS. I'm gonna go with the same thing. BDS and DZ because they have, a lot more experience at tournaments and also kind of really look stronger in the whole overall year. Ever since SI and third and fourth, I'm gonna go with G2 because of with the EUL finals. I'm gonna go with Cloud9. This team has been competing with Giants the whole year. Giants is a pretty top notch team overall, even if
Mm-hmm.
both teams in makeup pool. I feel like this team will kind of break out and have the top performance, and they've been a stronger team all year. Only team to kind of compete with Giants, and Giants has been considered maybe a top eight, top 10 team all year. So if you can compete with that, especially trying to show off that you're kind of the best team in the APAC region. APAC can show out even without Fnatic, and there's always been an APAC team that's always been pretty good at the tournaments. You saw Fnatic last year, not really. I think it was a top six if I'm right, but kind of shockingly beat some of the top teams. Um, you know, eliminated. Well, maybe I don't know. You would count G2 in a situation, but they beat the Empire when they were considered the favorites. Well, they won the major, but they were kind of considered one of the favorites, even if they struggled midway through the pro league season. So I feel like Cloud9 has a APAC team has a great chance of making top four. I can't see him making top two because you got to talk about BDS and DZ in the mix. It's kind of hard to really challenge those two teams, especially with how good the players on BDS are and how structured DZ is. So it could, maybe structure can kind of confuse some of the play styles in a lot of these group teams. Because again, you talk about LATAM being really aggressive, it could really screw up with like how DZ plays. I don't know how the APAC region plays, but I think Cloud9 has a really chance to get in top four. I maybe we can say Liquid could have a chance, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. Um, and Empire, yeah, they look strong in the last couple months. Unfortunately, they did not make the EUL finals, but again, they did win the. Did they win the November 6th? They did. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, yeah, you mentioned that. They did win the November 6th major convincingly against BDS, so I feel like they do have a chance. But again, I just feel like C9 kind of has showed out more throughout the whole year, and that could be a big help. Um,
the one thing I'm definitely considering is like the likes of Empire, the likes of G2, and some other teams as well, including like a lot of the Brazilian teams. We're going into a meta which really suits those style of teams. Obviously, I have the most experience with North America, and the main thing I'll say about America that differentiates them from other regions is just as a region they tend to play a lot more structured siege, a lot more kind of by the book, and there are your exceptions. Oxygen is one of them, but the meta from the meta that we've just had that we've just had this entire NAL season in has really benefited those structured teams. And I feel like we're moving into a meta which I'm not going to say is less structured, but at least gives these looser teams a bit more room to show their individual skill, to have just a little more unpredictability around them, and that allows them to play a little bit faster. It doesn't rely on like, okay, right, step one, we're going to drone all these roamers out. Step two, we're going to clear all of this utility. Oh no, we don't have the exact amount of utility. Like it's no longer going to be a matter of how many flashes do you have, how much utility clear do you have. It's just going to be about raw siege, and I think that this meta is fantastic for the game, and it also allows some of these stronger teams of old, like your Empire, like your G2, who were just gunning everyone on ability, to shine again. And that's why I think that Empire are a sleeper pick, because the last that we saw was them, they had a fantastic tournament. They went in the recent finals because they didn't win the recent finals because they weren't there, and I believe that they would have won it if they were there. So like there's a lot of uncertainty, and this is what happens when you don't play anyone in a different region for over a year.
Yeah, especially with COVID. Group B, top two, and then we'll go with third and fourth. So top two teams out of that whole group.
Top two teams. I don't think you can look past TSM and Space Station. I think regardless of what I said about DZ, and the fact that American teams don't usually play best of ones, I do think that TSM I do think that TSM and SSG will have the number of a lot of these teams here. I do think that they're better than all the Brazilian teams. I do think they will beat the APAC teams as well. So for me, it's a clear 1-2 for TSM Space Station Gaming in that order.
I gotta go. I'll go with this. Yeah, I'll go with the same thing. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. TSM, they have looked like the strong one of the stronger NA teams this year. They they've been the one team that you can probably say has played better than easy. SSG, you gotta go with their former world champs. It's the same thing. Like those three NA teams, it's just battle who's been picking each other. And TSM, I've considered they're really well. I'll probably mention this soon. The top team in the whole N8 region, and because again they won November 6 majors, they're probably favored to win the NA finals. They've been in many of these finals. They seem like the most complete team. Especially the roles have been matched up pretty well. It seems like there's not a weak player ever since Charlie joined. Um, and I don't know. It's just I'm not shocked they go 9-0. I probably see 8-1. Maybe they lose to SSG, because of a
Mm.
lot of familiarity. But
I don't think any team goes 9-0 here. I do think that I do think that the fact that American teams haven't played best of ones all year is a factor to consider. But just kind of looking at pure strength, I do think that those two teams are a cut above the rest in this group, and therefore they should be the top two. In Group A, it's a little bit. You've got like a lot of European juggernauts in there, and so I don't think it's quite as clear cut for DZ. But yeah, I think this group is going to be more the battle from third down to the bottom of the group essentially. So yeah, I'm not going to say it's going to be a 9-0, but I do think that Space Station and TSM will be up top. And then I assume you'll want to go for third, fourth here, yeah?
that's yep.
Third, fourth. This is going to be a little bit tougher to call. I'm going to say NIP are within that. I think they are a great team. I think they've had a really good season, and I think MIBR will be there too. I think you're going to see, I think you're going to see Brazilian teams do well in general. I just don't think that the I just don't think that the group stages is where you're going to see them necessarily come out on top. I do think that NIP, if NIP and MIBR make the winners bracket, that would be fantastic for them. And then you see the likes of FaZe Clan, Team Liquid, maybe even the Furia if they have a good group stage, make some noise in the lower bracket.
I'm shocked on some LATAM because they got them a lot of teams. You can probably see them making like good
Yeah,
runs. Um,
statistically, at
yeah,
least three of them should make it. Like just
I gotta go NIP. Yeah, you're right. Just a strong year overall, even if they didn't win LATAM finals and all that.
Hmm.
Um, they did they? I forgot. Did they win a November major?
They won the August major.
Oh, okay. I think
Um,
Liquid won the November one. That
uh,
sounds about right.
I can't remember who
Bryce.
won the November major, but they came third in the November major themselves.
Oh,
So
I think it was Liquid. That sounds about right. Um,
yeah, kind of like Liquid, Phase, MIBR, and NIP have, they've been that top four within Brazil for a while now. Like Team One has been trying to make some noise, and they have pulled out some decent results. Team One, I just don't feel like they are the strongest team out of those. So yeah, like it's they kind of they've all been like trading events. It's kind of been a little bit like America. Like America, the American teams have kind of been trading events a little bit as well. But you can see who the stronger teams are. So
I gotta go with Giants. MLBR, yeah, they. I feel like it's gonna be like those two teams probably have a chance at 4 or 5, and like kind of it does make sense. You could see Virtus Pro get in the mix because you mentioned they did look you mentioned they did look strong EUL finals even if they got third place. I just Giants. It's just a whole year consistency already. They've won a major on the APAC North side, so that's a big help. Experience too, even if they didn't really play good last year. I know they had free LATAM teams, and this. Oh, they only got two in this one. Okay, but
I know it's hard to
you
keep
switch
track.
them into Group A again. It's like, oh my gosh, I gotta do LATAM, LATAM again. But C9 gets to deal with all that pain. I didn't feel like they have a lot of potential with this Giants roster. And again, it's been toe to toe with C9, and those teams have been considered really good the whole year. And I feel like they both teams do have a challenge, can challenge those top teams, at least make those maps kind of close. They do best of ones in APAC North, the APAC region, so that's also a big help. But I feel like that's what you got to go with. MIBR is not a bad pick too because they won the Latin finals. Next, so going into this, best team in each region.
Best unitary. This is a tough one. Well, actually, it's not a tough one. BDS are far and away the best team in their region. If you just look at results, um, they they've been incredibly consistent throughout the year. Um, I believe they've been the top four in every competition they've been in since SI of last year. I'm literally gonna fact check that right now. Um, but yeah, like every notable event, they've been apart from like Pro League 11 itself, which kind of started and carried on throughout SI last year. They've just been fantastic. I think they've got the only thing that you could say against BDS is that um, a lot of the back end of that team. It did a fantastic a lot of work. Sorry, the support staff within that team does a great amount of work, and you do have to question um, how much of that dynamic will be changed going into a LAN environment with you're only allowed 6 members from each team at this bubble. So that's one support staff.
Out
Uh,
there.
yeah,
So they're gonna choose the coach every time. There's no way unless the team only has an analyst.
they only have
Then
one analyst on record, but I'm not sure how he does in the coaching, kind of the coaching role. And
they'll
there's a
choose the one
difference.
that's more comfortable.
It's definitely a difference between being an analyst and being a coach. Like I'm an analyst. I can help my team with morale, but like I don't have those coaching qualities where, um, like I'm going to be able to stand behind them and just kind of give them that player to player kind of boost. That is something I feel BDS may like. I'm literally like I'm plucking out the air for an excuse why BDS aren't the strongest team. But yeah,
That's okay.
like BDS are definitely the strongest team. Um, for
In the EU region.
Brazil, for NA,
You can go in that order, sure.
strongest team in NA. Um, I'm gonna be diplomatic here. I'm gonna say the strongest team out of NA um, is TSM. And the reason I say TSM is I don't think you can look at this event currently ongoing as a sign of strength. I think, if anything, all all 4 teams are just going to be essentially warming up for SA. They won't be treating this. Um, all of these teams aren't going to be showing their final form. They're going to have loads of stuff saved up. So I'm just going to go with TSM because I feel like they just have they're just the most talented team of raw ability. Um, I feel like I'm discrediting SSG because they are the reigning champions. But I think that if we see, I feel like if a different TSM had turned up last year, then we would have seen a completely different story. TSM just kind of collapsed. And that is kind of like my only worry for them is that are they going to collapse again? But in between then and now, they have performed well at a top level. They haven't necessarily choked. Um, and I do believe they are the strongest team. So far that's BDS, that's TSM. What region you want to look at next?
You can either do LATAM, Latin America, or APAC. You can do it in whatever order you want to. You were just kind of starting at just do whatever one you want to do first.
I'm gonna say Liquid. For LATAM, I think is genuinely a toss up. I think any of that top four can show off on the day. I think you'd be right to say any team that isn't Furia for strongest team in LATAM. So I'm going to sit behind Liquid. I think the most recent results are kind of been ramping up to this event. Um, I'm going to hedge my bets with them, but again, LATAM is like it's a region I'm not the most experienced with. I'm expecting LATAM in general to make a lot of noise. I would not be surprised if LATAM make the final, but we will have to see. For APAC, again, like I don't think you can really look past Giants coming from here. Like you can maybe chuck C9 in there. Um, I would be more willing to bet on Giants. So I just think that they've been slightly more consistent. Whereas Cloud9's just kind of been like, oh, we're here. Like Giants, they've been a consistent team for a while. They've got the pedigree. Um, they've got the results to back it up. So again, wouldn't be wrong to say Cloud9 either, but I'm going to go with Giants. Um, and yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, like obviously LTR are the lone Canadian team. For now, you can count them as their own region, their own little sub-region. But yeah, like they are an American team.
I'd probably go the same thing. Maybe LATAM would go with NIP. Because that, again, they have consistently done good over the season. Even in the best when they did best of twos or whatever the best of two format.
Mm-hmm.
So they had the better season results. Even though the tournaments they only won one of them, 1 out of 3. But that
Yes, the only
again, you
one I
had
missed.
3 different teams won 3 different LAN tournaments, so that's really scary to see. But NIP got second last year, especially with how I don't know if you want to call it credible. Well, it's a pretty good losers bracket run, which they lost in the first round, and then boom, just losers all the way, and that was shocking.
Yeah.
And if they got again, they were so close. That was scary. They were one map away, one clubhouse, one dinking nade, one almost get the bomb down. Rampy throws an impact right from under of Jim. Just like playing atop the bed. No, let's play it right there. Impact just throws, boom, just goes down. It was one of the I was that's one of the best plays I've ever seen. Like that is one of the most clutch plays when you need it. And you also talk about the dinking nade one, and I think CCTV and cash that area. When he was just really low, how it was just like a tussle. So again,
Yeah, like
NIP can't
it's
compete.
NIP are never playing them in a gym again. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
Also,
this.
shout out to MIBR as well. Like MIBR for the strong season. Again, like this whole NIP region is a bit of a toss up. It's really hard to kind of show because they've been trading, and then you have to consider. Yeah, sure. Like Liquid got like 3-0'd by MIBR. But it was in like the most recent event, and I just don't think you can hold as much weight in the recent events, which is why I said what I said about the event going on right now with NA, and why I've said about Empire being a sleeper team, and um, how like the results of the UL finals don't really kind of reflect what's going on
Yeah,
when
because
you've got SI in the line and you're required to play a top four tournament within your region. It's always going to be a little bit difficult to balance your map pool and your preparation for SI, which is ultimately the biggest part of your year, and also having a strong showing. Um, so that's why I'm lenient with Liquid. I'm willing to give them the edge, besides the fact they got completely 3-0 demolished by MIBR in the most recent event. So we'll
it
have to
seems
see.
like the teams are not really treating those. Well, they kind of have to treat those region finals seriously, but again, it's not like they need it for qualifying. It's just extra paycheck money and just show that you're best in the region. Though
Exactly.
Those November six majors have more importance because every one of those points matter. The season matters. Those region finals, they don't really matter that much. They don't help you with anything. They don't help you kind of qualify for the six invitational and all that.
You have
Um,
to remember that these events were supposed to be held before Christmas as well.
oh yeah,
So
forgot. So the new meta. Well, the meta's kind of already starting, but
yes, and that well, obviously the difference of meta is the most important thing there. But at the same time, it's just recency bias. Like it's like even just being able to, you're not going to change your entire map pool um, from meta to meta. So just even having that recent VOD is going to help. So you're going to be careful of what you show. Like, I mean, this would be the same even if it's before Christmas. Teams will have known they were going to SA. Like, teams at this level will have known they're going to SA at that point. It's just a point worth bringing up that the schedule was changed. All these events weren't supposed to happen in January. We were literally supposed to have nothing in January. So I guess it's good for us as spectators that we do. And I'm obviously getting stuck in on a more analytical front, but uh, yeah, it is definitely affected the way that teams are approaching SA for sure.
for the APEC, I'll go with Cloud9 again. I kind of mentioned it already. We kind of talked about it a lot. It's just they won APEC North region. They won the November 6 major. It just seems they have the better. And though you kind of already talking about it, just like well maybe the APEC finals don't really matter that much because again it's they're just mostly prepping for a six invitational. But again, you got to count the recent results in there too. It's like okay, doesn't matter. We're just going to save a lot of strats. The saving strats is kind of a controversy, especially with G2 in the past. Um, but I just feels like that's the APEC team you gotta go for it against. This one's like the toughest, just because I feel like Giants and C9 are like probably the closest two teams together. In
Yeah,
regards to like who's the best in the region, because both teams have shown great potential.
all regions are really hard to call. I mean, like
Yeah.
even if you look at EU, which seems the clearest cut with BDS, the last time we saw Empire play, they beat BDS, and it wasn't like it was a convincing win. It was definitely a win where we're like, wow, Empire, they're back. And then you look at G2, and they're also showing that they have the chops. They got the better of BDS. Um, but despite the fact that BDS have been beaten by both of the teams, I do still feel like they are the stronger team. They're the more consistent team. They have the more well-rounded map pool. Um, and I think that you can show that through statistics as well. The fact that they have just, it doesn't matter where they've been taken, they're more than capable to play it. So, and then obviously we kind of go back to the whole, how much weight can you put into this and that? It's BDS versus G2 that they're still going to obviously try. And it was a fantastic match as well. I just don't think that you can count any team out at this point. There are a few obvious teams which are weaker out of the 20 that don't realistically have a shot. But at the same time, like it's really hard for you to make an argument against someone making a deep run.
Yeah, it's really tough to tell, especially with how it's talented a lot of these teams are getting in the future, especially comparing to like the first season of Rainbow Six Esports to now. It's like you see more and more talented teams and players come into the mix that you don't know what you can expect.
Mm-hmm.
Next, so speaking of not expecting stuff, Team that will shock you at SI 2021.
Team that shocked me.
Yeah, not who would just make like a team you're not expecting. Yeah, a lot of the fans don't expect to win the tournament to make like just impress us. Like wow, that's pretty impressive.
Okay, so my like I've already mentioned my sleeper pick is Team Empire.
You can
Um,
keep that pick too if you want to,
I don't think
unless you want to
people
go
will
with
be.
something else.
Well, I think Team Empire are dark horse. I think rightly so. I think they've been genuinely silent since last since they've just not really made any waves since the 2019 season. I don't think that would be my pick for the most shocking team though. Um, I don't necessarily think you have to win the tournament either. Um, so if you're going to allow me that leeway, um,
We're not gonna. We can go for that too.
all
like
right, okay.
team
Well,
that you not well, just a team that isn't expecting to win, just to make a deep run, like get the highest placement than what they're expected to be.
if
Look,
that in that case, I'm going to say Altiora. I think Altiora have the ability. Like even though I did put them in my bottom three of Group B, I do feel that if they do get to a best of three format, they can make some noise. I would not be surprised if they can get a top eight, a top six. Um, a little bit like Fnatic from last year when they just kind of went on that crazy run. And it wasn't so much the fact that they got fire; it was more the teams they were beating to get there. I do stand by my Team Empire pick, though. I do think that if they win, it won't be shocking, but like it's definitely a low odds bet, right? Like all all like the top three of NA are all first in line, and then you've even got maybe two, like well, you've certainly got one, but like maybe G2 as well. EU teams ahead of them in the pecking order too. So like if you look at it like that, they're like sixth, seventh favorites, and then we've not even talked about the LATAM teams either. So yeah, we'll go with Team Empire. I think they're looking strong.
I'm gonna go with a little bit of a rivalry right there. In G2.
G2.
Yeah, I don't. Again, they won the recent. You know, it's the one thing you have to forget. You won't forget. Is I forget, I gotta remember the roster now. Well, two of the players have won 6 invitationals. Yeah, especially Pengu with two. Wait, two. That sounds about right. Is it three? No, it's two. Having
Are
a
we
hard
talking
time.
about World
Six
Championships?
invitational. Yeah, so it'll be two.
Yeah.
Just making sure I got that right.
Kanto's had
One.
one.
Yeah.
Pengu's had two. Um, who else is on that team?
Uno,
Uno.
Virtue,
Yeah, the
and
rest.
so they have zero.
Yeah. Okay. So they're all still looking for their first chip, but yeah, like it's only the core of Fabian, Eunice, and Goga that have won two as well. So, and then Shate won the first one. Obviously, Kanto came in for the second one. Um, so yeah, like you can say that. I mean, if you look at SSG as well, like you've got um,
Two for Canadian, and then one for the
uh,
rest of the team.
yes, you've got two for Canadian. Um, you've got two for Bosco.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He won
He's
the Xbox one.
yeah, I know he's one on console. Like he in my eyes is like the goat. Like if you go, if you
You
win
won
on
on two
console,
platforms.
yeah, and I know console wasn't as developed, but like still, man, like you got to be special if you can just transfer that quick. Um, but yeah, like
You
and
gotta look at GT last year too. Again, when you look at they had a pretty much they were not even supposed to get invited. Like 2019 towards the six invitational. They didn't win a tournament. They didn't make it to a pro league finals and make any progress. They almost got to one. They didn't do good in one of the minors. They didn't do crap in any of the minors they participated in. They were not even supposed to make it. Although they got second in rally, the rest of the year didn't look that great. They got I'm shocked they still got second in rally. But it didn't look like a strong roster, and they made it out of groups. Although they got seventh and eighth place, it was shocking to see that, especially when you had reciprocity and I think I don't know if BDS was I forgot that group. Um, I think it was BDS and Wildcard, and they were
Jeez,
not supposed to make it out. Or were supposed to be like third or fourth, and they made it to the the bracket play. And you know it's not supposed to be considered a favorite team. It might looks a little bit better this year. They should make it out of groups. Hopefully they don't get bottom two. I don't think it should. I hopefully we don't curse them. Hopefully they don't get bottom two, but we don't know what could happen. Because I think it could happen in the best of ones, and with all these teams going back to land, like all competing on land now. We'll forget about the D's besides DZ in that group because they play in NA. Um, but you gotta. This is a team that has a lot winners on that team that you can learn, and especially with the recent performance, I'm not shocked that they get top six, top four. Maybe top four is a little bit too high expectation, but top six that seems reasonable. I feel like they can make a deep run. It's just I don't know. It's a team that could also make a lot of upsets in the pool on the group stage. Maybe they can beat BDS because they already beat them in the EUL finals. Again, they beat them 3 maps. You can probably take 1 map off them. You can make it work. They can probably beat, could have a chance to beat DZ. You don't know what you can expect out of that team, especially with not a lot of high expectations like last year, where you were just a lucky group invite. So
G
G2 just a really odd team that you can really see make a deep run that you're not really expecting to be. Uh, though
just
it's
like a word in a couple of other teams. So like I think if we're gonna like talk about LATAM teams real quick, for NIP and MIBR, like their realistic targets are top four in their group. Just starting off with their group, they want to be in their winners bracket, and they probably look at every other team. They look at every team other than SSG and TSM and go, we've got this. Like we can handle the competition here. Maybe even push for that top two spots. So they're especially NIP are wanting to roll off of their last SI performance. They're going to want to get into that winners bracket, and the I think getting in the top four of your group is not going to be understated, because if you don't get in the top four, that means that you don't have that lifeline of a loss. And the only other thing I wanted to real comment just about like kind of talking about rosters and potential winners is SSG, because they're obviously the defending champions, but Canadian has also been in 3 out of the last 6 invitational finals. He won it with Continuum. He was then on the
EG lost, which
yeah
was the
he was on the
first sweep.
EG Penta match. Out of the picture, there was G2 Empire in 2019, and then of course he becomes world champion again and is reigning world champion now. So like, how can you bet against a guy to make a final? Another couple of things. Obviously, you still got Sky's kicking about on Dark Zero, who is looking to
X
become
box.
both.
Well, yeah,
Yep,
platforms.
he's looking to follow Bosco. And I mean, obviously he had the chance to do that last year, but DZ just didn't make it that far. So, well, not as far. I think they got top 6. Anyway,
Yeah.
so there are definitely some people who will add to their accolades in a huge way this season. I think it will be fantastic if we see either Pengu or one of the SSG lads become the third world champion. I think that'd be really cool to see. But I don't know. Like there are a few teams up ahead of both those teams right now. So, but it's hard to bet. It's hard to bet against the champions, especially when it comes down to the big pressure events.
Next, so we're gonna kind of divert away from kind of the teams a little bit for the next two topics. Points. Players to watch for in each. I put each region. I don't know if that's gonna. It might be a little bit hard to do that. Well, we can
I
do
mean, there'd
that.
be a lot much to do each team, right? So,
Well, each region. So,
still a tough question. Players to watch for.
or out of the top four, kind of the top two teams in each group. Let's do that one because it's a little bit easier. So TSM SOG, which you said for Group B, and Group A, you said BDS and Dark Zero. So we can start Group A first with BDS player to watch out for.
I mean, you've got to look at Shaiko. One thing I've loved about BDS is that they've become less of the Shaiko team and more of just BDS esports. Um, their team is far more well-rounded now, and when Shaiko cannot pick up the fragging, there are other players there to do it. Even Bride, when he first came on the team on support, just had a fantastic season. He was so good in the previous meta. He just completely understood the support role and how to play it in that meta. Um, he was fantastic. On the same level as Canadian and with better stats, in my opinion. And but I do think that obviously Shaiko is still going to be the one to look out for. He's still their star player. He is still the one that's going to be popping off. And yeah, sure, you got Alems, like Renshiro has kind of come back into form. Alems has been really solid all year. He was a great draft pick for me in the in the fantasy siege anyway. Um, and then you've got Rafael just kind of like just kind of rounding out the roster. You got gunners in all areas. But ultimately, Shaiko is going to be the guy that wins you in the event, and he's definitely going to be the person to look out for. DZ, DZ's kind of hard to kind of pick one player in particular, so I'm just going to go with the boring answer of Hyper. I think Hyper is he's obviously he's one of the top rated, if not the top rated player in North America this year. He's he just brings so much firepower to that team. But what makes that team tick is just how good of a whole team that they are. They don't seem to have people who are dropping off in performance. But once again, like if Hyper shows up in his final form, it's going to be like Shaiko levels of performance, and I think that's scary for any team going against him. And then Group B. So I said TSM and SSG. I think you have to look at Canadian. Canadian he's just a winner. He's like sure he's got Rampion faults to kind of back him up, but I'm expecting Canadian. He always shows up at Invitational. It's his events, it's his hammer. He was yeah. Like when you think of Invitational, you think Canadian, and then you think like G2. Like it's just the way it is. And TSM, I'm going to try and go a little bit off center here. Um, I'm looking at Merc for TSM. Merc was considered the best player on their team at one point, even with Bolo. I don't feel like he has ever reached that form since. And I will be looking for him to reach that form again because his team are going to need him. And he's not exactly being a bad player. Sorry, need some more. This is too early for me. um, yeah, just kind of like ran off my point. I think Merrick really needs to show up. I think that if he does show up, he's going to shock some people, and he's going to remind people of just how good and how mechanically talented he is as a player. And I just don't think that he's had a chance to really show that for him since last year. So all eyes on the big man.
I think SSG one. I got you. Got to look at Pasco too because he is known. He's considered, although he might not be the killing fragging potential of Faults and Rampy, he's considered. You talk about Canadian. Canadian's a good pick too because he's the leader of the team. He's won the champs. He's kind of he can boost the morale of the team up, and he can play the support role really well, and you can trust him to get the bombs down. That's why he's always had a good. He can plant the most bombs in the Okay, that sounds really odd when you say that because that's gonna cause some. Uh, but he's always trusted to plant the diffusers down, and that's why they had the surrounding support. But Bosco, he's considered one of the players best players in the league, and he's not even like the fragging type in the whole R6 esports scene. He's clutch, and you
Yeah,
can't really forget about that about
he's
him.
extremely clutch, and he's like a rock. Like he's definitely one of the best smoke players in the world right now. He's going to be that person that just anchors your site and will just win. He'll win the gunfights he should not win. He's special. I've said this before. Like if like that, I mean the team is stacked, but Oscar is just one of those players where you just don't you never see him making the incorrect play, right? Um, and that's kind of what's special about him. He just seems to have that game sense, which is just on a different level. And I think that's evident with, obviously it's a few years back now, so it's kind of irrelevant. But like the whole console switchover thing, he is obviously the most successful one since that transition. Um, but again, like you've got Rampy, you've got Phelps, you've got like the whole team with you there. And again, to kind of go with Canadian, like he brings that energy as well. I mean, like look at the way he was getting energized and shouting at teams during SI last year. Like if we see that Canadian again, like his team's gonna be pumped up. And that's one thing you need to remember as well is Canadians. I think the reason that Canadian has so much success is because he's able to elevate his team with his own mood. He just brings that intangible to the team where you just feel like you're not going to lose. And I think it's an underrated factor. I don't think a lot of teams have that. I don't think a lot of teams have that hype man where they're like, he's just shouting in their opponent's face. It's almost like Call of Duty esque, you know? It's like having a Clayster in your team from Call of
Yeah,
Duty. He's he's going to make you feel like you can win anything. And there's not enough of those people in the scene. And honestly, like he's the best in the business. That's it. So
I think another going TSM probably gonna go Bolo here. Like he's gonna pick up the pace. BDS I'm probably gonna go Shaiko. DZ I'm gonna go different pick. I think I'm gonna go with two players to watch it for, and this is gonna be the most experienced on the team. Mint and Hot and Cold. These are players who have competed. They have so much experience, but it seems they need some. They need them badly. Because I don't know what I was trying to say something, but I totally forgot. But the one thing is they haven't really shown up in those big tournaments.
yeah,
Um,
that's correct. I mean, Mint has been clutch. In fact, Mint was actually the reason that my team didn't make the top four last season. Because he just ran through a breach and
yeah.
just I don't know, he just grew some balls and just made a play and yeah, fuck you, man. Nah, obviously big respect to both of them. They've been around the scene for a while. And Hot and Cold is actually, in terms of statistics, has actually been popping up on the leaderboard. But
Oh, just curious. I
no, but
don't really keep up with that.
you're right. Like on the when it comes to the events, like you do need these two players to step up. And um, I'm not going to say they haven't stepped up, but at least statistically throughout the league, they were both playing a lot better. And um, that's the thing. Like, sure, they do have hyper, but I don't think that is enough for one person just to take over a team. I do think that the supporting cast needs to be strong, and I do believe that they will be strong. And they have. If you just look at their supports, like if you um, they've got Grant, they've got BC, they've got fantastic support staff behind them as well to help them with it. Like they are the quintessential siege team when you look at how they do things. It's just, will they all show up on the day? Because if they don't show up on the day, then I feel like they're going to get outshined by those individuals within their own group, like your Shaikos, like your Cantos, that are just going to pop off and just shut them down.
You just hopefully they show up on land finally.
Well,
Because
that too.
yeah, you win an online major, but like you haven't won a land. They probably have one lane. I probably don't have history on that. I probably didn't look it up, but
No, I don't believe they have one of land.
they haven't won a land, and it's got to happen soon enough. Especially when it's been so hyped around that, and considering you want to be the best NA team, you cannot be losing to TSMs. TSM on land, SSG on land. In your own region, that's not that's kind of concerning a little bit because those are kind of the a couple of top NA teams in there too, and they also those are the two NA teams you have to challenge with, also the top teams in the whole invitational, and you can't beat them on land, especially with TSM won a land in the November major, and also Dreamhack Montreal. SSG won the biggest championship. OXG It's a little bit of a different roster. Well, probably not much of it. Well, with Foxy and Laxon, they won a Dream Out Montreal in 2018. Um,
What about
so
Cloud9? Yeah.
yeah, under the Cloud 9. Um, so you got to win a land. You got to win NA land. You got to win a regular land. Good thing is you kind of have Skies and Eclipse who have won lands either at the minor or major level, especially with Skies or the World Championship. So, and also this team has stuck around. Well, probably this. I don't know when the roster moves happen, but they're. I don't know when Faults joined. I think Faults was September of 2018. And then DZ was right after the Tokonami Major. So this is a pretty long out roster that's stuck around since wait oh sorry that was 2019 um crap late 2019 to now, so you stuck at a whole year. You have so you got to figure it out now
Yeah.
that
False joined at the end of May 2019.
oh
Just
okay,
to,
just curious.
I did
um
a quick fact check for you.
so they're long ones, so you got to win now. Otherwise, it's could be. I don't want to expect a roster change, but it might have to be considered. Well, they signed the contracts, some big extensions, so they want this to be long term, and hopefully they'll kind of figure it out at this tournament.
Yeah,
Um,
like the just to kind of talk about like roster changes. The transfer window literally opens straight after SI.
yeah.
Until obviously March when we have the brand new league. So um, you kind of said Rostermania right at the start of this, and I kind of had a laugh because it could potentially be that way. Like you could have a team completely just bomb out and go like we're done. Like we need to make a change. We can be better. And I mean, obviously, I hope to be a part of that Rostermania from a support staff standpoint, but I will also be keeping an eye on what teams are going to be forming, especially within my own region. Well, my own region is EU, but my region of expertise is NA. So
Yeah.
I will be interested to see if any of those top three do make changes because I don't believe they need to. Like maybe outside of DZ, um, like SSG and TSM are fantastic teams, and I think the only reason that you would make a change to DZ is if one of the players decides, hey, I'm gonna drop out. I think Mint and Hot and Cold have plenty of playing left in their system. I don't think Hyper Eclipse and Skies are done playing either. So unless one of them wants to leave, it'll be really hard for them to make a roster change.
Next topic will be make or break tourney for players and teams.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Let's see. Um,
Now this one could be, if this team doesn't perform well, it's a possibility it could split, or this player doesn't really, or like a player who's had a lot of experience or has a lot of hype doesn't perform well. Could it mean they could what could be the for the future? So like the future of these, like okay, what was I trying to say? Either A, you do good, or B, this team is splitting up. Let's go with the team factor because players it's a big player base, so it might be harder. So team that needs to do well, otherwise you're gonna expect some moves.
the first one that comes to mind is clearly Oxygen. Um, I would not be surprised if, regardless of the results, they make changes anyway. Um, I think that they know that they're not going to be able to they've not been able to beat the top three with the roster they've had with the way they're playing. I think that they need to make a lot of changes with how they're playing the game, and I think that the only way to do that is to bring in new blood. Um, whether it's bringing in new support staff, LFT by the way, or by bringing in new players. It's kind of up to them, but I do think that they can have a mixture of players who are motivated and then they have like some players who are less motivated, and honestly I would be less motivated too if I just couldn't get that monkey off my back. I feel like they need a refresh, and unless they win the event Like even if they win the event, they're probably still going to make some changes. So that's the obvious one for me. Like a kind of less obvious pick. Um, I think I think kind of bouncing off my point from earlier, DZ is another one. I feel like if they don't get top three, they make a change. Um, I don't think it's going to be a necessarily. If we win the event, if we don't win the event, we'll make a change. But they certainly need to get top four. Um, and okay, let's chuck in one from the European region. Um, I don't think this.
Don't count makers in this because you don't.
No. I mean,
Yeah,
makers.
that's not gonna.
I think. I think you can make a shout for BDS as well. I think BDS are feeling that this is the best opportunity that they have to win, and I feel like they will take it seriously if they don't. Um, the French teams are ruthless. Like they're more than happy to make a change and kind of rebuild for the season. And you kind of saw that with what happened after SI 2019. They had a strong showing. They make a change and they instantly improve. So if they don't have if if they don't at least make the final, um, I could see them making a change too, just because they've done it in the past. They got top four last season, which was well punching above their weight. But yet they were still like, right, we can be better. Let's get Bidet and let's strengthen up our support. Um,
No, to be
and
honest, RXWD wasn't really showing. That was the big concern because he was one
yeah,
of the worst. He was on the best team possible, but he was the worst statistically player in the whole season, shockingly. And no one was expecting they would. It was ranting on Twitter for a while that he kind of had to go quiet on Twitter because of all these rants from him not performing statistically well, and it's been a big help with having Brie in the mix. But I
okay,
can't.
so
It's kind of
I
hard
can
to
see it
see that
happening
team
again.
change, but
It definitely is, but like it's
yeah, yeah, the
like
French
these things
region,
happen.
yeah.
These things happen. Like there are many talented players, and I think if they were to make a change, like they would probably look outside of France, um, and look to bring in someone who can maybe speak French or maybe like transition to English speaking. I don't really know I'd have to speak to Eagle about their communication and whether that would be possible, but obviously that's not something I would ask him right now. But yeah, I could see it happening. I think if you look at any other team in out of these 20 teams, um, it's an easier question to say who would stay together regardless of result.
You
Um,
can do that too. You can have that team on your mind
well,
too.
unless they completely bomb out, I don't see G2 making a change. I don't see Empire making a change. I don't see SSG or TSM making a change. Um, like with the LATAM teams, honestly, I don't know. um,
I
but
remember
like
Latin teams having a hard time, especially with some of the bigger teams. I don't know why, but I think I remember hearing this or seeing this like Latin teams are impossible to move players, switch teams, especially with teams like Liquid, NIP, and MIBR in the past. They have a hard time trying to transfer players.
I think the issue with LATAM is that they know there are like one of the weaker regions in this tournament, so it's hard for them to justify just based off its six invitational results, um, a change, and so then you look at domestic, and honestly, it's just been a mixed bag. Um, so you could argue that if it is possible, they maybe make a quote unquote super team. Um, the honest answer is I don't know. I know more about APAC than I do about LATAM, um, and that's just kind of how it is. And again, like kind of like looking at APAC, like yeah, maybe wildcard make a change, regardless. But I don't see Giants are a solid team. Cloud9 are a solid team. Um, I only see a change being made there if someone just becomes available that is impossible not to pick up. And G2 as well. Like I feel like G2 are getting better and better every single event. Um, they're your outside, surprise pick to win the event, and outside of them just completely, capitulating in groups. Why would they make a change? It just doesn't really make sense to me. they've invested so much money and time and facility into this team, and they're going to make a sports staff change come March as well. Sue confirmed that. So I just feel like for most teams here, they're already expecting to make changes, or regardless of whether there is a change or not, they're in it for the long run.
I gotta go with the phase. This is a team we haven't talked about a lot.
Nope.
But this is a team that has struggled ever since the Invitational. Um, actually, ever since they got well, go with ever since they got second at um the South no Rio de Janeiro Pro League Finals season 8. Is that season 8 or season 9? One of those seasons, whatever the case is. They haven't been the same team. And it seems like they make all these moves. They pick up KDS. The team got worse somehow. I know they, um, tried to fix a little bit of the issues. This is a team that has to, I think, for expectations, they have to get top 8, and it seems hard to make because they didn't compete at the one thing you also have to consider is they didn't compete at number 6 major, and they didn't compete at the Brazilian finals. So we don't know how much this team has improved ever since the stage 2 has started when they made the move for KDS. And this is gonna be scary, but I feel like this is gonna be Astros' last tournament,
Yeah, the team's going to
especially
retire.
with how I'm not gonna say this is final tournament, but if he, it seems like it's getting near that point, and I have liked Astro as a player. I'm a FaZe fan. I do like the Brazilian. I was a big fan of the Brazilian R6. I am a fan of the Brazilian R6 team. Because of fan organization. But just this is a player that kind of needs to have a good performance. Otherwise, it's not going to see any value in participating competing anymore. And this team might have a big split up where you're going to see about maybe if they don't do well, at least that top 8, which I think it's a good expectation for them. Although they probably want to win, everybody wants to win. This team is probably going to have 3 or 4 players go, and they're
I think
trying.
sorry.
Oh, you can go continue.
I just wanted to point out that they've also had like a fair amount of sports staff changes as well,
Yeah,
and like we saw like Twister leave like near the start of the year, and he's now with Furia, and obviously Furia
in the
like
group.
there's yeah like they're doing their thing, like I'm not going to say Twister leaving has just been a downfall, but they've had Snarfex has been in there. He left, and then Ramilio joined. Or Ramalho, however, I'm not
Yeah,
great
well,
with Portuguese, but um, it must be hard for them with players leaving, coaches leaving, new people joining. It's really hard for them to kind of get like a solid structure. And I think that like Cicadia joined in September, I believe,
yep,
and he has had enough time to adjust to his environment. The team's had enough chance to actually settle down. And I think SI is the perfect space for them to really test how good this roster is. Um, I don't really want to make any bold statements in terms of whether or not they're going to make roster changes or not, just because I'm just not as familiar with that region. But I mean, on paper, it makes sense, right? Like you've had enough time to gel. This has been a great proving ground. You've not had the real results back up, and you're still regarded as one of the top teams in LATAM somehow. So if you don't live up to that, then why wouldn't you make a change? Really, like it seems kind of obvious.
yeah. Especially the team. You also remember the team got second at the August 6 major for the Brazilian region, which they lost to NIP, which they got swept in. I think they got swept twice by them at that tournament. So I don't know. I think it's the team you got to look out for. Oxygen's another good pick. I kind of, I think it's a team. It's a team that me and you kind of expect to have because it's a Bio hasn't been, Bio is probably a trustworthy IGL. That's where you got to go. That's what they needed for that team, especially when um, they made all the moves. When Knicks was trying to be an IGL, so they bring in Bio, hasn't really performed statistically. Slash, just hit out of the park. Does good, does bad, vertical. He hasn't been the same player since he was on Rogue, like in regards to his capabilities of being a fragger. The good thing is Laxing and I don't know about Foxy. I haven't really kept up with kind of how he plays, but Laxing is still one of the most trust kind of a player to look out for. Maybe if as a move, if the roster does switch, because I think he's probably a high prospect, and he's been
I
one.
mean, I've got loads of opinions about that team. To be honest, a lot of them are
Yeah,
controversial. Um, all I'll say is that there's a saying in esports that says you should make your teammates your friends, not your friends your
yeah.
teammates. And I feel like that is the approach to how this roster formed in the first place. I think Oxygen is a team of friends. I think they all get on, and that is how that team happens. And when you have a friendship team, and you're going against those teams that have that business mindset about them, like there's we're gonna grind, we're gonna do everything properly, and they'll hold each other accountable a little bit more as a result. I think a team like Ocean struggles. Friendship teams in the past have not worked, and I don't think that this team is an exception by any means. Even when you look at the players, they tend to kind of play in their own agenda as well. Like if you analyze the way that they play, yes, you're like Laxons have fantastic stats. Um, but you're going to have fantastic stats if you're playing extremely slowly and for your own agenda. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that he's doing that entirely, but um, there is definitely ways in which he can play with his team more. And I just don't think that he is doing that right now. I think like there is a reason why he's left in the clutch all the time. Like he plays extremely slow, and sure, like like he gets his, like he gets his ones, he gets his clutches. He looks fantastic on the stat sheet, but um, as a team, there's just alarm bells all over the place. And there's just so much disjointment with that team that I just feel like they just need a complete refresh, and that's why I would be extremely surprised if A, they don't know this themselves, and B, they're not using that information and being like, right, we'll play out SI, we'll see how we do, and then we'll make a change. Kind of like the G2 mentality of last year. Like we're gonna go to SI, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna do as best as we can, we're gonna try, but we know that this roster is going to explode um, coming into the next season.
Uh, that's pretty. Yeah, that's kind of hard to see how these some of these teams we both kind of talked about. You're probably gonna expect some changes, but we don't. Again, imagine performance and all that. So we're gonna go into the final three topics, which is gonna be kind of a little bit of so it's the Sunday rundown. So though it's not really Sunday, it's not we're not talking about Sunday, but usually when they do it on Sunday as the final day, they kind of announce all the season stuff, with the new operators, the maps, whatever they're gonna change with Jaeger's abilities, what they're gonna do with Aruni's, all these, are they gonna change Glaz's sights again, all these changes. Are they gonna rework Skyscraper for the third time? So first, first thing is gonna be a little fun questions here. Do you think? What are you gonna expect? In year seven season. Wait, is this year seven? This might be year seven. Off am right.
Yeah, 6.
It's gonna be year seven next. Okay, I just gotta make sure. Um, New map. Do you think it's gonna be a new map or a rework for the
Wait, we're in year 6 right now. Are we talking
Yeah,
about next year?
yeah, we're going next year. So when they announce the next season, that's what we're gonna
Oh
go for.
right, okay. Oh
New,
right, okay. It's the Sunday, yeah,
yeah.
reveal. What am I expecting? Um, I don't know. Like it's really hard for me to give an answer because
Would you want a rework or a new map
all right, okay.
for
Let's
that?
talk.
Yeah,
Let's
so
talk.
that.
Let's not get completely into the combat pool because I think that the combat pool is not in a good spot right now. Um, we have yeah, we have like maps with sites that are unplayable. We have maps with areas that just don't get used at all. We have maps which are exhausted of structure because they're so small and they just become just basically TDM maps. Um, we need reworks. We need reworks. We need a complete refresh of the map pool as well. Um, I want to see viable maps being created and inserted in and taken out, and popular but less viable maps taken out of the pool. And every single map in the pool has something that's wrong with it. Clubhouse, for example, staple map, fantastic map. It's only got 3 viable sites. So there is one site which is not viable in any shape or form. If you go there, you're blasted.
Barring stock.
Yeah, right. And I don't know how much you play the game yourself, but like that site is like,
Yeah, that site's barely used.
even when you're memeing about, you get angry because you're like, this site's awful. Um, yeah, sure, maybe one team will like, well, I'm going to bring one out at SA. We'll see. But like the fact remains is that from like a strategical standpoint, having a map with only 3 viable sites just makes the map really predictable, really stale for both the players and the spectators, because of the way that you attack the map. You're always going to have 2 hard breaches. You're always going to have your soft destruction. And therefore, those kind of mind games between top floor and basement and gym just don't really exist anymore, especially with Habana in the state that she is, with her being as powerful as she is. Um, so we need Villa's another example, a map that has, you can maybe save 4 viable sites, but like the basement is like basically useless. People forget that it has 3 floors sometimes. I know I do. I'm like, oh my god, there's a 3rd floor to this, which never gets used. It just doesn't flow as nicely. Um, Coastline, far too small. Fragger map, plays like no other map in the pool, which, and it's fun to watch. I understand why it's still in the pool, but the fact that it isn't the only issue with the map pool is kind of frightening. Consulate, we've got 4 sites, really viable, nice split on all 4 sites. Um, but the issue with Coastline is that you can literally win the round without entering the building. For a start, you can repel on all 4 sides of the map. Um, you have sites which are heavily impacted by operator bans. Um, myself and my team had a map on Consulate that we knew we were going to play, and we had a strategy based on operator bans, which ensured we would only play 2 sites because that's how heavily affected that map is by bans. And like I could go on and on and on and on, but the fact of the matter is that if theme park and cafe are like your only 2 like well-rounded maps in terms of site viability and just the general playstyle of the map, we need to see some shakeup. So I absolutely want to see some map reworks and some new maps as well. I'd even love to experiment with um, chucking Chalet or Skyscraper in the pool just to see how it does. Like just do it for a season. Let's see how it works. Like take out one of these life 5 maps. It surely can't be any worse.
I've played 70 to 80 maps of ranked myself. I recently just got skyscraper once. I played it 100 times. Maybe we'll go maybe I don't know. We'll go 80 or over maps games, and I got a skyscraper once, and it did not go well. And I don't know, that rework did not do anything because skyscraper is already a pretty bad map, and it seems like the bomb sites are not even fixed. So I don't know. I don't. Chalet will be interesting to see in the mix, but I don't know. I don't think that map's valuable too. I think you're gonna have to stick with what you got. I feel like a map that you can possibly have potential with is Border.
Um, I think Border needs some work. Like
Probably a little bit bigger.
I I agree with Border being taken out of the map pool. Um, that is just one map which was not only stale but was just, it was yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a bit too small, and I think some of the destruction needs to be worked out a little bit. Like I mean, even with like a clubhouse, like I feel like it needs that extra rework as well in terms of buffer runes, destructibility, and then obviously that force site just needs changing outright. Maybe make it a split site. I just change the location, whatever. Um, but yeah, like when you have a map that has no buffer rooms, and what I mean by that is basically rooms in between the outside of the map and the site itself is going to make it extremely hard to defend, because you essentially have the battle for one wall, and it's just a matter of, um, it's not really a matter of strategy at that point anymore. It's just more, um, who's going to lose the gunfight. And I don't think that Siege is the game where it's acceptable for that to be the case. It should obviously primarily be won and lost with gunfights, but I don't think the whole strategy should fall apart um, just by breaching one area of the map. So maybe I'm being a little bit over the top there,
No, that's fine.
but at the pro level, these things matter. So yeah, to kind of reiterate, let's get some new maps, please. And if we want to talk about other things, that would, because I assume you wanted my perspective in terms of
No, we're not
where
gonna
I'm
kind of
coming
go.
from.
No, we're not gonna go with that. That's just the only time I because the maps like the thing that's
Yeah.
always expected for each season. I don't know the changes are not really expected. This one's just for the hell of it.
Okay.
Where do you think the new operator is gonna be from?
Um,
I think it's gonna probably be attacker. It's gonna be attacker this season. It's only attacker. Just a random country.
it will.
Y-
Yeah, it will be attacker, right? If we follow
Yeah,
the pattern.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of countries that don't already have one. Um,
I want to try Antarctica. Just
Antarctica.
joking. That's not a country. That's not even count.
Um, it would be good to. I believe we've only got one African, right? Is that correct?
Uh, I don't know.
Malusi.
Melissa, maybe Omai a little bit.
Am I? Yeah, yeah, you're right. Um, I would like to see one from Sweden.
That would be
Um,
interesting.
that'd be cool. Like, I don't know. Like, I just, I'm a big fan of like the Scandinavian countries. It'd be cool to see some Swedish blood in Siege. Outside of that, it'd be cool just to, like, I'm not a big fan of like, like because just because of my role within this game, I don't really pay too much attention to like the lore and stuff. It's not really something I'm mostly bothered about. But I guess bringing in some extra African elements would be fun. We've got plenty of European operators. That's where most of the vanilla ups are based. Um, but yeah, like I think it'd be cool to have some new nationalities because I think it's important for the game to represent as many nationalities as it can, and it's clear game vision. I mean, we can look back on how Japan reacted to Echo Hibana, even Kivira, um, Capital,
Capital Brazil.
and Brazil, and like the whole playing into the World Cup and everything at the time. Like that was huge. Every time we have a new operator in a different region, it brings more eyes to the game. It brings more fans to the game. Brings more cultures to the game, and I love it personally.
I think the Middle East has some potential. Because they have, I think they're starting to try to support the region a little bit.
Yeah,
In regards. So, I don't think they have any Middle East operators.
they
I
have
might be, I might be wrong.
Nomad
No,
and Kayet,
I think that's Morocco. That might
Morocco.
not. Well, that's kind of Northern Africa, but yeah,
Okay.
close. But that would kind of cool to see like Egypt a little bit. Like they have like oh,
It's more like South Europe, right? Um,
no, it's like
geography.
Northern Africa. It's like close to the Middle East.
Okay, well, we've got more African
Well, yeah, we can get
operators
some
than I
more.
thought.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can hopefully get some more in the mix. I think, wearing like a Great Pyramid of Giza. It's like a helmet on top.
Mm.
It's like wearing like a pyramid. Like it's one of the helmet. Like he just wears it all the time. You
It's
know,
his ability.
yeah. I don't know. It's probably not the ability,
Builds a
but
pyramid.
yeah, just build your own pyramid. Just it's like that's good for like a defending op. Just like okay,
It's
just
just
activate. Let me build a pyramid for 10 seconds. I'm immune
okay.
to damage
You
and all
open
that.
you open CCTV wall and there's just a pyramid. Yeah, nice.
So last thing we got before we for this topic is the grand finals matchup. So and the Sunday, they revealed all the reworks and all that. Who two teams in grand finals and who's winning it?
Okay, so I'm going to try and apply some logic because obviously the groups matter. Um, if we take if you take my top four from the groups, which is TSM, Space Station, BDS, and Dark Zero, then because they're top two of their group, that means they're on opposite sides of the winners bracket. So what that means is that um, by logic, it'll be one of those two groups. So what I'm saying is the top two from each group could potentially be your winners finals matchup, right?
Sure.
Um, so you could have DZ and BDS matching up against each other, or you could have Space Station or TSM, or a combination of the two. Um, I personally think we're going to see a TSM Space Station winners final again.
I feel yeah, that's probably gonna happen.
I think they'll come top two of their group. I don't think it'll be close, and I think that when it comes to the winners bracket, they have enough talent to beat whatever team that is in front of them. Um, I think that if any team is going to win, it's going to come from the lower bracket. So the question now is, in the grand final, does the loser of the winners make it back into the grand final, or is it a lower bracket team? And to answer that, I would just look at last year. That did not happen.
With an IP.
That did not happen. The tough thing about the double elimination bracket is that for the winners final, if you lose, you're coming off a loss into another match against a team that is on fire, right? So momentum wise, it's just not it's a mismatch. So and it's exhausting as well. So this is where I'm going to bring up Team Empire again, and I'm going to say that they're going to be just destroying for that lower bracket, and they're going to be in the grand final with Space Station.
Hmm.
I think Space Station will defend their title in the grand final against Empire.
Score.
Score:
Yeah. What's the map count? Map
uh,
score.
Empire will win 3-1. They will basically win all three maps. And the only reason that's Empire,
Oh no! Wait, you said Space Station is winning.
I'm saying Empire is winning.
Oh,
Um,
that's what you said. Oh, you said
yeah,
defending champions or oh,
yeah.
I
No,
thought
I'm
you said
saying
defend.
Space Station will look to defend their title
Oh, okay.
in the
Sorry, I
grand
didn't hear
final.
that.
I think that Empire would win. I don't know. I just got belief in them, and I think that they would win all three maps out of the four. Well, they would win three maps out of four, and um, yeah, neutralize that map advantage.
I'm
Um,
gonna go with TSM BDS, and this is gonna and I got TSM winning because NA is gonna win back-to-back years. Sorry, I know you're Europe and all that. I know you probably want, yeah, you do work in the NA region, but you kind of want, oh, I want Europe. We gotta get the European region together. I'm gonna go 3-2. Last, we're gonna go with a Cafe Dostoevsky 7-7. Wait, no, it's gotta go in overtime. Crap.
yeah,
Oh, I forgot. So it can't.
15-15.
No, oh, it can't go that. Um, no, that's like CS:GO scores right there. So, um, we'll go 8-7. Bolt and TSM's gonna 1v1. Bolt full health. Bolo guns Shaiko 9-7. They win on Cafe 9, and that's the end of the tournament.
Bolo, Bolo versus Shaiko in a grand final would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's.
one thing I was thinking of asking you actually was, do you think it'd be a disappointment if NA doesn't win the Invitational?
I don't think it. I think just not. I don't think it really. I think yeah, NA people in NA do want to win it, want their teams to win it, but I think that all that matters is there. As everybody in the world is hoping is just a great overall tournament. As much as SSG, he wants to win again. You want TSM to win. NA's got a lot of hype. All these separate regions want to win. I think the thing that all people care about is a great ass tournament because this is the biggest. This is the first big one. The maybe like second or third big land since COVID hit,
Hmm.
and they want a good tournament. So I don't think it matters on who wins. Maybe the region specifics, but everybody as a whole, you just want to see how great. They want land tournaments back. They want a tournament feeling without the fan. Without fortunately without the fans, but they just want a great tournament.
All right,
Um, so closing
I like that.
topic thing I have for you is I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a show in a couple days. What is as let me get the question. Might as well ask it for a closing topic. What do you need to, since you got it's going to go on the sad part again. I know I didn't want to do this, but what is, and I don't want to put any risk of your job opportunities, but I know I had a guest who was interested. Who I have a topic where I just want to talk about the bad side of R6 esports, why they struggled, and I kind of want to ask your opinion. What do you need to fix with the R6 esports scene?
So are you familiar with Black Ops 4 during the CWL at all?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I'm a Call of Duty guy.
well, so am I. I came from Call of Duty. I love Call of Duty esports, and if you think back to CWL and Black Ops 4, um, it's a very similar situation to where we are with these R6 esports now, where Ubisoft seem to want to introduce a franchise system, but they're not going like full balls with it. And it was kind of like that CWL in BO4. They were like they knew they were going to CDL next season with Modern Warfare, so they were starting to give organizations some power. So ultimately, CWL had licenses and power um, over the CWL spots in the organizations. The organizations had power over the players, and that's exactly what we have with R6 right now. We have Ubisoft basically sanctioning all these licenses to organizations they think are worthy. And if the organization, for whatever reason, wants to completely change their roster, they can, within obviously some rules and 3/5 and whatnot. Um, what this means is that there is no player security. If the players have a poor relationship with the organization, or the organization is just not as involved in the scene, or for whatever reason, those players could lose their livelihood extremely easily. Um, and I have been a product of that. Like, I mean, I'm um, like, as what I'm doing with you has affected me quite a lot, especially during the COVID era. And same with all my players and my coach as well. Like, it's pretty tough. So we have no security with that. And even if Ubisoft makes a decision that involves one of the organizations, we become collateral again as players. So we need more player security. And the only way that I can see that this can be fixed is if Ubisoft transitions into a full franchise, um, where everything becomes more expensive, but it is done properly, and players have more security, and contracts become a lot more stable. Or we go back to a system in which organizations do not own the spot, um, and players get there off their own merit. And if that means that a change in organization is needed, then fine. Um, so that is just one thing that I would say, just that could not necessarily get me in trouble, but like there is obviously opinions around it. Um, I think in general, Rainbow Six needs more promotion. I don't think Rainbow
Same
Six
thing.
esports um, does enough to promote the esports um, the esports scene enough. There's no real in-game notification that will tell you that there is an event going on right now. If I was to log into R6, yeah, sure, they're promoting the Six Invitational, but what about the major that's going on right now? Um, they're outside of Twitter, which is how we seem to find out everything from both Ubisoft and R6 Esports at the minute. There's no real promotion, and I feel like just with that extra few steps, those extra game embedments, and you'll have more casual people at least giving it a shot, because R6 Esports isn't for everyone. It's pretty hardcore, um, even more so than CS, I would say. Um, and for that reason, it's really hard to get new fresh eyes in the scene. And I think my third point, which kind of bounces off that, is the game itself. This game was built on an engine that cannot handle what this game needs in terms of speed of changes, the complexity of the game itself, the coding. I don't know much about game design, but what I do know is that the engine itself is not to scruff. And the reason that that is the case is because this game was not expected to take off the way that it did. It wasn't expected to still be growing after 5 years, um, at least in player base. And and that is just something that Ubisoft just kind of needs to take on their shoulders. So, as controversial as this may be, I think that there needs to be a new Rainbow Six game. I think they need to completely remake the game, even if it's just for changing the engine. Just ensure that the game can always be in a healthy state from its roots, because right now they're trying to develop on a system that is just fundamentally weak. And if you build on weak foundations, you're going to have a weak building. And um, there may be a few things there that will need fact checked and I may have got wrong, but I do think that remodeling the game from the ground up will do a lot for its game's future.
Sorry, I had someone didn't know what's happening. But that's gonna be in the. I kind of want to voice my opinion, but I gotta kind of go somewhere. Do you want to give any shouts? Thank you for coming on the show. Do you want to give any shout outs to anyone before we end it off?
Well, thanks for having me on. I don't really have any main shout outs, being LFT. Um, but one thing I will say is that um, if I can, if this does reach any professional teams, I am obviously here, ready to talk to you, free with no buyout whatsoever. One thing I will say is that we talked a lot about the groups and predictions. I'm actually running a competition for R6 credits on my Twitter, DrewSpark R6. And it's basically the closest prediction to the final standing for the groups will win some R6 credits.
Okay, I'll try to
So,
answer that.
so yeah, if you want to win some free R6 credits and you think you have better predictions than we do, um, unless our predictions are goatee, in which case we'll get the R6 credits. Then yeah, head to my Twitter. It'll be like maybe I'll retweet it today. But it'll be a post a couple of down. You just had to fill out a Google form. It's very self-explanatory.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, otherwise, I guess I'm active on Twitter, and hopefully I'll be in the next season. We'll see.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. It's kind of fun having someone who has the public experience in here. I'm gonna end off the show here. Thank you for joining. Thanks. Hopefully the viewers, you guys can understand. Drew Spark is open for business as a analyst, maybe a coach role, head coach role, if he wants to pursue that. So yeah, that's gonna be in the show. Hopefully, next episode we're gonna be talking about why is our 60s word struggled. We're gonna kind of talk about kind of what we kind of ended off as and transition with another guest. It's gonna be it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.